Hi there, and welcome to Leadershipisation, all things leadership. I want you, before I start talking about today's topic, I'd like you to really think about leaders that you've trusted the most over the years, particularly those that you may have liked in really difficult situations. And when you think about them, you probably are going to remember that they weren't the loudest. They weren't necessarily the most frantic, running here, running there, and organizing everything. Maybe they didn't escalate their emotion a whole lot. Perhaps they stayed calm. Perhaps they were able to regulate their emotions a whole lot. Because there's absolutely power in this. And if you think back to those leaders that you trusted, there was probably power that you felt in that because all of you felt safer. And you potentially probably felt more clarity and more willing to listen. Join me today as we unpack this. We're going to look at why calm leaders get followed faster, why they are able, and how you might be able to build the kind of presence that brings that calmness without suppressing your authenticity, because we want you to be authentic. I'm Beth Bergen. I'm a global leadership and communication coach. I help leaders to do things like refining their presence and their decision making so that their authority absolutely amplifies their influence. And I'm here every single Tuesday at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We've got 3 key points today and then 2 tools that I want to share with you that will help to bring a calmness to your leadership. The first point is this: your calmness signals safety to your team, and that builds trust and respect. As human beings, our nervous system is constantly scanning for either threat or safety. And what's interesting is that when we feel safe, that accelerates our trust. And when our trust is accelerated, then that makes us more likely to be collegiate, to collaborate and feel like we're part of a team. When we're calm, it doesn't mean that we're disengaged. Like some people say to me, well, if I'm calm and I'm not showing my emotions, how will people know I care? Calmness demonstrates that you've been able to regulate your emotions and that you're setting out to be much more intentional, that you're wanting to send a message that says, we've got this and I've got you. We've got this and I've got you. Now, what happens is that when your emotions escalate, your team goes into protection mode. They don't feel safe. They don't feel like they can trust you. And so what happens is that instead of demonstrating a commitment to the team, many team members will shift into a space where they're complying with what's required of them. So they're not doing anything extra. They're not doing anything wonderful. They're simply complying. And you don't actually want that. The second point is this: calmness, when you're calm as a leader, your calmness creates credibility under pressure. What do I mean by that? Well, leaders are judged. This is really interesting. Like other people judge us, particularly things like in our leadership, they judge us when things have gone to custard, when things aren't going well, when things are tough. That's when people judge us. We judge mostly when things go wrong, not when things are easy. And when you're reactive, that results in a loss of authority. Whereas when you are steady, when your emotions are regulated, that builds and strengthens your authority. So a calm response demonstrates your competence. It demonstrates your emotional intelligence. It demonstrates your confidence, especially in stressful times. And these are all aspects of leadership intelligence. These are all aspects that are going to help you to be a better leader. Now, when you have that calm response, you make clearer decisions because you're not hijacked by your ego, by your emotions, or by the sense of, wow, I need to hurry up, I need to hurry up. The sense of urgency. It's none of those things. Calm helps to build that trust, as I said before, and it gives you that clear thinking. And that clear thinking demonstrates your competency out there to everybody else. And this is why someone who is naturally calm, who doesn't drown in the drama, that person they're often seen as our natural leaders because they're someone, oh, I'd look to them in a crisis because they'll sort it out for me. Oh, I'll look to them in a crisis because they'll have the answers. The opposite of that is that your lack of calm actually fuels the flames, which brings us to point 3. Calm is contagious. Of course, it's contagious. However, so is chaos and every single other emotion because it ripples out from you. It ripples out from you. When you're regulated and you're managing your emotions, the team is better able to do that. Now, this leads to a question, oh, am I controlling everybody by being calm? No, calm isn't about being a controlling person. It's about managing your emotional intelligence, demonstrating your emotional intelligence, which, as I said earlier, is part of that leadership intelligence that is, that's my jam. That's the thing that I'm always on about. We need to build your leadership intelligence, and it's a whole toolkit of a range of different skill sets. Like the awesome thing about calm is that when you're calm, you slow the room down. You sharpen everyone's thinking, particularly your own, but you sharpen everyone's thinking. And collectively, you're going to increase everyone's capacity. So your ability to respond to what is happening is far greater because there's calmness at the center. Now, calm doesn't mean slow. You are still responding within the timelines required. You're still responding with the urgency that the situation demands. However, you're not being driven by the urgency and by the hurry, hurry, hurry. You're being driven by the calmness, because when we're frantic, we fuel those flames. When we're frantic, we build the drama. When we're frantic, we make rushed decisions. When we're frantic, there's likely to be poor execution because things haven't been thought through. Calm is contagious, but so is that chaos that you can create by not regulating your own emotions. Okay, let's look now at a couple of tools that will help you to build a calmer leadership. Now, this first one is terrific. I use this myself. I use it with lots of my clients. And it's really about coming up with some kind of calm anchor. So choose one physical anchor. The one that I use most often is to take my thumb and to rub it slowly and deliberately against two of my finger pads. And this can be done under the table, so people aren't looking at it and going, what's that person over there doing? But something like breathing in and out much deeper, doing 3 deep breaths. This one's awesome. Tapping the floor with one of your feet, tapping out a tune in the floor. Now, when you would use this, and you would do it consistently and quite deliberately, is when the pressure is rising, when you can kind of feel, ooh, my emotions are getting a bit out of hand here. Maybe I've been triggered. That's when you would use it. And if you can use it consistently in those situations, you bring your body back. You bring your body back to focus, and it will be calmer because you're starting to focus on this rather than your emotions getting out of control. And the really interesting thing is that our body actually becomes calmer and can refocus faster than our mind, but it brings our mind after it. So that's why we use that physical anchor. I find that works fantastically, and you can do it with both hands if the situation's really getting out of control. And you can do it faster and faster and faster. But just having that physical calm anchor, it reminds you, come back, refocus, bring your emotions back down to a level where you can regulate them and manage them rather than them managing you. The second tool that I want to share with you today is what I call a micro pause. And we've already talked a whole lot. If you've watched a number of other leadershipizations, we've talked a lot about what I call the power of the pause. In this case, this is a little micro pause. So before you respond in a tense or a difficult situation, this is about just quickly asking yourself, what energy am I about to bring into the room? Like if what I'm doing is allowing my emotions rather, to manage my energy, to manage my reaction, what energy am I about to bring into the room? What this does, and then you take one slow breath, like you ask that question, what energy am I about to bring into the room? One slow breath. What this does is it breaks the train of thinking, breaks where the energy might be going. The energy might be following the emotion. So it's sometimes called it breaks state. So instead of you going there, you're giving your mind something else to think about, and it reduces that reactivity. Now, a lot of people say to me, but if I pause like that, people are going to think I'm an idiot, that what's going on. A pause like that can, more often than not, will lift your authority, because what it demonstrates is that you're thinking through your answer. You're not reacting, you're thinking through your answer. So think about that. It's going to reduce your reactivity, and it's going to build your authority. Now, these are two tools that I know will work immediately for you. And potentially you've listened to these and you've gone, yeah, okay, I could do that. That sounds like a plan. If you are not deliberate about using them and doing them, no point in knowing it. You can understand what I'm saying to you. However, if you don't put it into action and you're not deliberate about it, then no change will happen. So my challenge to you is use one or both of those and let's get them going. Let's now look at a couple of reflection questions. I've got two for you today. And the first one is this. I want you to reflect on how you typically show up under pressure and what impact that might have on others. So the question is, how do you typically show up under pressure and what impact does that have on others? So do you become impatient? Do you become louder? Do you become a little bit edgy and aggressive? Do you withdraw? Do you lose confidence? What is it that you do? How do you typically show up under pressure and what impact does that have on others? So if you become withdrawn, others think that you're annoyed at them or that you're dissatisfied with them or that you've disengaged from the issue or that you can't make a decision. And it can have a lot of impact on them. We've already talked about those today. So just reflect on that and then think, maybe, where is the growth here for me? The second thing, the second reflective question that I have for you is this one. What would change in your leadership if calm was your default response instead of urgency? What would change in your leadership if calm was your default response instead of urgency? Maybe it would be team buy-in. Maybe it would be the trust between yourself and your team. Maybe it would be the energy that everybody brought to the table. Maybe it would be the culture. There's a whole lot of things that can actually change. Now, what I see is that I've said question 2, and it's actually question 1 that's going up across your screen. So in a moment, question 2 will come across, which is the reflection question that I asked first. My apologies for that, but they scroll across the screen, so it gives you time to actually write them down. So some key takeaways here. The key takeaways that for you today are these. Firstly, calm isn't weak. People often see calm as being kind of passive. They don't realize that it's actually a strength. Your ability to regulate your own emotion is a strength because people respond much more to your emotional steadiness than they do to any kind of emotional force that you're going to put on them. They need you to be steady. Your calm, your emotional regulation provides an environment in which trust can thrive. It sets the standard for trust. It sets the standard for providing clarity. It sets the standard for performance. And that's really important. The more you can manage your emotions, the more likely it is that your team will respond to you in a positive way because calm leadership isn't passive, it's powerful. Now, this completes 3 leadershipisation, all things leadership conversations related to your emotional regulation as a leader. So if this is the first one that you're watching, the last 2 weeks have been about what to do, what happens when you're triggered and who takes over when you're triggered. And now this one about emotional regulation and being calm. Have a look back on the platform that you're watching this on. If you can't find it, reach out and we'll make sure that we get you a copy of it. So thank you. If you've got questions or comments, pop them on the platform that you're watching this on, and we'll get back to you. Hashtag replay if you've watched a replay. If you want to begin building your quiet authority through better communication and leadership skills with yourself, with your family, with your team, with your community and your organization, reach out. The link to have a chat with me will be in the comments. Thank you so much. See you next week. Bye now.